It was always said of Henrietta that she might be useful one day. Toby is certain of it and never leaves her behind. The two of them are attached and always joke. We know each other better than we know ourselves. That is why, one day, Toby knew that something was wrong. "Is something troubling you?" he asked kindly. "Don't misunderstand me, but it feels as though we're on our old line." "Whatever do you mean?" "Well, ever since Daisy arrived, there's been no need for us on the passenger service. I'm very grateful to Sir Topham Hatt for bringing us here, but I long to be useful and full outside of the quarry run." Henrietta looked down at her buffers. "Our line closed when passengers stopped riding with us. I'm worried that may happen again." "Don't worry," he comforted. "I'll make sure nothing like our old line happens again. Certainly not being turned into a hen house anyway." "Do you promise?"
"I promise," Toby said finally.
That made it all right, and Henrietta felt better. They arranged their trucks and were soon ready to leave for the harbor. As Toby ran alongside the river, a little lorry overtook them. It gave a quick and zoomed away. Henrietta sighed.
"Chin up," said Toby. "Don't let them get you down. You never know when you'll be glad you came along."
"You're right," Henrietta smiled. "After all, where would you be without me?" Toby smiled back knowingly. They reached a nearby station, and Toby stopped for a drink, when suddenly the station master ran up, with a frantic-looking man in tow.
"This man's lorry is overheated in town, and needs to deliver his goods to the junction. Do you think you can help?"
"Of course," Toby's driver replied. "We'll take it in Henrietta." The old coach was excited, but not when she saw what the lorry was carrying. "Toby, you promised," she wailed. Toby chuckled. I know. But remember our old line? You always wanted to take traffic away from the roads." Henrietta wasn't amused, but relented as the last chicken cage was safely stored on her floorboards. The trip wasn't all plain sailing. The chickens flapped, squawked, and thrashed in their cages. Henrietta was glad when it was nearly finished. Leaving their trucks at the harbor, Toby quickly made a dash for the junction, where the chickens were offloaded to wait for Edward. The driver and fireman helped the guards sweep and clean Henrietta's floorboards and cushions. They cleaned her so well, you'd hardly suspect she'd been anything but a coach. When Edward was out of sight, Toby rang his bell goodbye, and the two returned back to the harbor.
"So," Toby asked, "how did you enjoy being useful once again?"
"I suppose you really never do know when you'll come in handy," she began. "But for now, I think I'll be content with our runs to the quarry." Toby chuckled as they arranged their empty trucks and headed off to collect the workmen for the trip home.